I know that the sentence in the title appears to be a paradox, right? How can selfishness bear selflessness? But I will attempt to convince you that this is actually the case and that it's not a paradox at all. And the easiest way to start thinking about this fact is our own idea of us maybe being too selfish and that we should do more for other people, that we should not live for ourselves, that we're in a society and that we should contribute to it. But whenever we do try to do something to help others, to make someone else's life better, we find the process very slow, very frustrating, and it seems like we're not getting any results, and we quickly burn out. As opposed to those people that we see sometimes around us, or maybe in the media, who have been doing selfless work for decades, who've been involved in all kinds of charities, whether formally or informally in their personal lives even, and that every move of theirs seems to be a selfless act, helping someone else, improving someone else's life. And we wonder, how do they get all this energy, all this patience, and all this endurance to live like this constantly when we can't even do it for a short amount of time? And that's a very, very important and valid question. The thing is, the question assumes something that's not actually the case. It assumes that people with a lot of energy and patience and endurance can live like this, and that if you don't have those qualities, which some people think are inherent, either you have it or you don't, then you can't engage in this work. You can't live like this. You're going to be more of a parasite to society than anything else. But that's actually not true. They don't have more energy and they don't have more endurance. Well, they might, but it's not inherent and it's not necessary. What happens to these people is they stop doing the work for the fruit, and instead they do the labor for labor's sake, and they don't look for the fruits of their labor. And you might say, well, okay, that's easier said than done, but how does one actually achieve that? Whenever I do something nice, I certainly do look for a result. If people don't thank me, if they're not grateful, if they don't somehow reward me, whether with praise or anything else, eventually no one would want to help people like that. But that's not true, because that's looking for the fruit of your labor. And the way to stop doing that is to realize that nothing good or bad exists outside of you. Because if it was truly good or truly bad, it would be inside of you. It's the same thing we apply to happiness. If we start to look for happiness in a job, in a career, in money, in relationships only, then guess what? Everyone who has the power to give us a job or to not give us a job, everyone who has the power to give us money or not to give us money, has power over our happiness. And I've asked this question before here, and it's a question that you should always ask yourself when you pursue something that you think might be beneficial for you, is this something that can be taken away from me? And am I fine with happiness being something that can be taken away from me? What a terrible world it would be if happiness was something that we don't have, we don't own inherently, that can be taken away from us or given to us as someone else pleases. Everyone who is happy, everyone who's leading a fulfilled life, and everyone who is doing labor for labor's sake and not for the fruits of their labor knows this. Everyone who does that looks for all the good and the bad inside of them. If they want to be good people, then they say a good person is an honest person. A good person is a kind person. A good person might be a generous person, whatever it is. All these things are completely up to us. No one can force us to lie to be a dishonest person. If you don't do it, you won't do it. And no one can make us less or more honest. No one can force us to tell the truth more. Only we can do that. No one can make us kind. We can go through the motions of what seems to be honesty and what kindness and generosity looks like. But if we don't really feel it, it's not honesty, it's not generosity, and it's not kindness. And if we do truly feel it, then it is ours, and it will always be ours, and it can never be subtracted or added to by anyone else. And that's your true power. And that's, if you link your happiness to that, if you say, I want to be an honest person, I want to be a kind person, then you've unlocked really your key to happiness and your path to happiness. Because the more honest you become, which is entirely in your control, how honest you are is entirely in your control, that's how happy you'll be. And you will have complete control over your own happiness in that way. It's the same exact thing with being selfless. When we do selfless acts just for the fact that we want to be someone who's selfless, that we want to be someone who does things for other people and who improves everything wherever they go, then we will do that for ourselves and not for someone else. We will say, we'll be generous, we'll look for improvements that we can make in our environment, in our society, just because we want to be that kind of person. That's exactly the turning point when true selflessness comes from true selfishness. Because everything we do, even though it benefits other people, even though, of course, kindness, honesty, generosity, all these behaviors that we have benefit everyone around us, we're really not doing it for other people. We're doing it for ourselves. And that's what true selfishness is, and that's what true selflessness is. Because no matter how much praise we get for it, no matter how many actual physical awards or rewards we get for it, or don't, we will do the work, because we've never done it with the intention of getting a reward, but we've done it with the intention of, I am a person who is kind. I am a person who does not hoard things, who does not try to possess things more than they need because they become an impediment to me. Wanting these things, desiring material objects, makes me, in a way, binds me to other people. It gives control to other people over my happiness, over the kind of person that I am, over the fulfillment that I feel in my life. If I desire a material object, I desire something that can be taken away from me. If I desire someone's favor, being liked by someone, well, then I'm tying my happiness to that person's decisions and that person's control over me. But if I say I'm a charitable person, I look around and I feel empathy with people, and I want to do what I can simply because I'm a human being that has something that they can spare and sees that someone else lacks it, that's the only reason I will take this and give it to them. No other reason. And the fulfillment you get from that, the happiness you get from that, first of all, is nothing in comparison to anything else. It's tenfold. It's infinitely more gratifying, more fulfilling than any kind of compliment or praise or prize that you could get. And I hope that you now see that true selflessness comes from true selfishness, because everything good that we do for ourselves. We should do for ourselves. And everything bad that we do to ourselves. if that's the biggest consequence that we can possibly think of, if we can train ourselves to see that the worst thing about doing something bad is that we're damaging ourselves, that we're damaging our humanity, our soul, if you will, our intellect, that first of all, we'll stop doing it, but also the worst consequence is not that someone else finds out and that someone else punishes us. It's that we know we did it and it damaged us. And it turned us away from the path that we had for ourselves imagined. And again, like I said, the consequence, the greatest consequence of doing something good is that we lived up to our potential, is that we lived up to our dream of ourselves and the highest possible being that we can imagine ourselves being, that we're making progress towards that. What's greater than that? But also at the same time, like I said, what's more selfish than that? So be that kind of selfish to be the true kind of selfless.